Welcome back, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse. This is the Marvelous Wave, and let's observe all that occurs. The concept of variants is something relatively new to the MCU. And though it could be argued that different versions of the Avengers from the Time Heist and Avengers Endgame could be classified as variants, the first time we ever hear the term defined or explored is in Loki. We are able to see brief glimpses of different Loki variants throughout history who have deviated from the sacred timeline. These include, but are not limited to, Frost Giant Loki, Tour de France Loki, Viking Loki, and of course Sylvie. But how many variants are there of popular characters? And how many could and do exist? And how many will be introduced in the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? A variant is simply defined by Miss Minutes as someone who deviates from the sacred timeline, meaning that even the Loki that we are following in the Loki series is a variant, despite how closely he looks and acts like the Loki we know and love. So who else in the MCU has multiple variants running around? Maybe not even in the main timeline of the MCU, but perhaps even the multiverse. One of the most likely candidates is none other than Peter Parker. With the hazy cloud of secrecy surrounding Spider-Man No Way Home, multiple theories have emerged regarding multiversal crossovers with not only different iterations of Spider-Man, but bridging to other connected Marvel universes as well. For more information, see our video on everything we know about Spider-Man No Way Home. But for this video, let's explore the concept of how other variants of fan-favorite characters could emerge, and if these variants could be the result of the TVA's greatest failures. The Loki series explains that when a deviant timeline reaches what is known as a redlining, the course of history becomes irreversible, and the timeline permanently deviates. During the first great multiversal war, the Timekeepers rearranged the events into one sacred timeline, but only after this did they establish the TVA and its agents. Therefore, nobody at the TVA was present for the multiversal war. Since it has recently been revealed in episode 4 of Loki that the Timekeepers are nothing more than puppets, it is unlikely that the Timekeepers told the TVA workers about the concept of redlining. It is possible that whoever this mysterious puppet master is was the one that told them, but the more likely theory is simple. They discovered it through experience. The more likely of the two explanations is that the TVA has experienced redlining firsthand, be it in the infancy of the TVA or more recently. It is implied that agents like Mobius have had first-hand experience with redlining timelines, and that even though the TVA tries its best, failures still can and do occur. So how would high-ranking agents know that a timeline is irreversible unless they'd tried before, and were unable to clip the branches? After all, a 100% success rate in a company is just not feasible at all, let alone one as complex and convoluted as an agency tasked with monitoring all of time. Is it really so far-fetched to believe that the TVA has failed before? Or if so, how widespread are the consequences of these failures? Spoilers for Loki episodes 3 and 4 lie ahead. We already know that the TVA is either lying or being lied to. Sylvie in episode 3 reveals that everyone working for the TVA was at one point a regular person before they became a variant. We know that the higher-ups of the organization, be it Judge Renslayer or the puppet master behind the Timekeepers, are trying very hard to keep the true story and history of the TVA a secret. Could they also be covering up the histories of their greatest failures? And if so, what exactly are the ramifications of failed or redline timelines? It's quite possible that there isn't only one sacred timeline as we have been led to believe. Is it possible that there are already deviant timelines that have been left unchecked? But due to the sparsity, they have not collided with the main MCU timeline yet. If they do in fact have first-hand experience with timelines redlining, it stands to reason that these unchecked branches have been left alone to grow and evolve for potentially decades or even longer. These universes could entail any number of changes to the reality that we know from the MCU, including iterations of beloved characters. And since there are far fewer timelines than there were during the multiversal war, they haven't collided yet. Or have they? What if universes such as Sony's Raimiverse and the universe of the Amazing Spider-Man duology were the deviant timelines that the TVA were unable to maintain? There are branches that have been left unchecked. The idea that these timelines were abandoned by the TVA or swept under the rug explains why they could have evolved so thoroughly. establishing the webhead's own rogues gallery of villains in each franchise, and allowing those events to transpire as they did in their respective timeline. We also seemingly get a glimpse of one of these lost timelines in the closing minutes of Loki, where he seems to be in a version of New York that has been destroyed. Footage from this setting has been public for months now, and many theorize that this is a world in which the Chitauri invasion of 2012 succeeded in defeating the Avengers. This timeline could be one of the so-called lost timelines that the TVA was unable to maintain, and now serves as a sort of prison for the variants that are pruned there. In Miss Minutes' orientation video, she explains how multiple timelines battled each other for supremacy over the graphic of different timelines colliding over one another. While this could be symbolic, it could also hint at certain impact points where two timelines collide and interact with one another. If this is the case, then this could explain how Alfred Molina's Doc Ock not only survived, but managed to jump between timelines after the events of Spider-Man 2, assuming the multiverse theory regarding Spider-Man No Way Home is in fact true. This point in time could have been a place where the Raimiverse and the mainline MCU collide, as seen in the video presented by Miss Minutes, and could explain why Doc Ock was able to jump into the main MCU timeline or into another universe, only to re-emerge in Spider-Man No Way Home. So how many universes does this entail? How many branches have formed as a result of the TVA's failure to maintain them? Could this include the Fox X-Men franchise, the 2005 Fantastic Four duology, Into the Spider-Verse? Even the cancelled Netflix series may have been unchecked branches that split more recently in the MCU. This potentially means that we could see variants of already beloved characters on these unchecked branches, but it also means that we could see previously established versions of certain characters that have multiple cinematic interpretations. We could see Spider-Man not only come face to face with other Spider-Men of the multiverse, but with a Human Torch that looks eerily similar to Captain America, or witness interactions between multiple iterations of characters such as the Punisher or Daredevil that have multiple cinematic versions. These variants would occur due to what Miss Minutes calls Nexus events, which splits the multiple timelines into different branches. For some franchises, these Nexus events are difficult to pinpoint. For example, in the Raimiverse, there seems to be no sign of any other superhero or super being until Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Therefore, the Nexus event would need to occur before Captain Marvel or even Captain America became established heroes. Some other universes, however, are more easily narrowed down. In the Marvel Daredevil series, Matt and Foggy are able to get their law office cheap due to the renovations after the Battle of New York, confirming that the series had followed MCU canon up until that point. But we know that the MCU Netflix verse was unaffected by Thanos' snap in 2018's Infinity War, so it stands to reason that the Nexus event that split this timeline from the main MCU timeline happened somewhere in the 6 years between the Battle of New York and the snap. This could possibly explain the rumors that Marvel is planning on rebooting the Netflix series characters with some of the same actors. If the characters existed until a certain point, but their Netflix adventures were retconned via the use of a Nexus event that split the timeline, fan favorite actors such as Charlie Cox and Kristen Ritter could return without the baggage of their previously established adventures and relationships. So is there any merit to the theory of these impact points being the bridge between universes? Surprisingly, yes. And his name is Stan Lee. Stan Lee has been a mainstay of every Marvel-related property back to the trial of the Incredible Hulk, appearing in a total of 60 cameos across the years. He is the bridge that connects the multiverses together. Stan Lee is the irrefutable proof that the multiverse not only exists, but can be traveled by those who know how to navigate it appropriately. As Doctor Strange will soon learn, and whatever multiverse he is exploring now, he is likely having just as much fun as he always has. So what do you think of this, my friends? Do you think that the TVA has been lying about their previous failures, and they have in fact failed at clipping the branches? And if so, do you think the multiverse already exists, and the TVA is lying in order to save their reputation and morale? As always, my friends, I would love to hear your thoughts on this theory in the comments down below. I know this is a massive one, but I do think it makes sense, and it is a way to tie all the Marvel properties together in one sort of universe using the multiverse itself. It's a lot to handle, and there is a lot of information in this video. But as always, I would love to hear what you think down below. As always, hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and have a great day.